Hey, Pacific Northwest family, this is Miguel Gutierrez here at Shelton United Methodist Church with Pastor Kelly, Dalman Oath. And he's going to talk about his church and how we got here, and please tell us.
Yeah, so I've been here at Shelton United Methodist Church for, I think I'm in my third year now. My wife and I moved here from Kirkland, where we lived for about 15 years. I was pastoring a church in Shoreline for the last 7 prior to coming here. We came down to check out Shelton, came down to check out the community, and just absolutely fell in love with both the larger community, the environment, the feeling of the community, the small town feel, and also then met the congregation, and what a beautiful place. You'll probably hear along the way a little bit of background music. We've got 2 Guatemalan congregations that worship here at Shelton United Methodist Church. It's just a beautiful symbiotic relationship that we have with them as we celebrate them and celebrate their faith as well.
So tell me about your motto, which is Welcome Home, Beloved.
Yeah.
And your church is really inclusive, it seems like. And you've also sponsored the Pride Proclamation in Shelton for the past 3 years. Tell us about why you do that.
Yeah. So I have always been a part of, as an element of my faith, recognizing that Jesus calls us to partner with, walk alongside with, and support those who are most vulnerable, those who society calls outcasts. In Scripture, it'll be the lepers and the sick and the sinners and the tax collectors. And who are those today? And it kind of depends on your community, but certainly within our community here, what we see is there is a lot of hostility and prejudice against certain groups of people, immigrants, for instance. And so we do have a lot of immigrant communities that worship here, serve as well. And our motto of Welcome Home, Beloved, is part of it is the logo itself, is that it is in rainbow color. And that also speaks to the community who feel most vulnerable and ostracized in many ways, not just here, but in the country. I think there's a hostility toward LGBTQ folks, especially trans folks right now, and directing a lot of hate and hostility against those folks. And if you were to ask me, where is Jesus? Who would Jesus sit with? Who would Jesus eat with? It would be with the LGBTQ folks. It would be with folks who are being persecuted because of their immigrant status. It would be with folks who are poor and ostracized because of mental illness or even drug use. That's not to say that Jesus wants folks to suffer and struggle in those situations, but that Jesus would have heart and compassion for those folks. And that has a lot to do with where we are. I think way back when we first came, I found out about the Pride Proclamation. Every city I've ever been a part of has had a Pride Proclamation. I was stunned that, I think, we had 4 years of a Pride Proclamation. And when asked, would we be willing to speak to that? Of course. I believe the church needs to have a voice in the community and in the civic environment. I'm all for separation of church and state. That does not mean the church does not have a voice in the state. It means that the state doesn't impose itself or any religion on the people. And I certainly agree with that and support that. I don't want Shelton to force prayer in schools, because what prayer would we have? What I want is a freedom of religion for all folks, and we are free to have our religious views in this community, and I support that. I was a little disturbed this year about the Pride Proclamation when 3 of the council members out of 6 that were present voted against it. And there's no other way to say it, but that's essentially what they did. And when I heard that and watched some of the statements, heard some of the statements that were made, I just kind of became outraged, wanted to turn some tables over, as Jesus would, wanted to call folks to account, and really just put out there with others a need for us to speak a truth to power out of a place of love, out of that place that Christ calls us to love our neighbors, all of our neighbors. So that was a bit about it. We showed up. I don't know if everybody had a chance to see the city council meeting. How many people were there?
Over 100.
Over 100 people there, overflowing the overflow. And I think 55 people spoke. 40 of them spoke passionately, talked about the pain, some of them very direct pain, vulnerability, threats that they'd experienced as gay, lesbian folks, transgender folks, graffiti, vandalism, etc. And to hear some council members say, this is divisive to have this statement. Everybody's welcome here. Everybody's safe here, is clearly not true. And they needed to hear that from the folks who aren't safe here and don't feel safe here. So I think the council needed to hear that. And then finally, I think the pressure from the community and those voices that were there was heard. And so I'm grateful that it passed.
So this church also has a senior meal program, and we've got a food donation center out here, and also immigrants that come here and worship. So you really welcome the stranger and feed the hungry.
We do.
Thank you so much for your work.
It's what
in
we're
the
called
community.
to. And I mean, I can't say I do that alone, right? We're a community, a church in community. So we have got the 2 food pantries. Folks who aren't part of the church come and stock those, as well as our own folks who do. We do have food drives to stock those. The senior service meals that we do with South Sound Senior Services, 5 days a week, and they serve 1,000 meals delivered on wheels to folks. Mason County Community Resources providing hygiene kits and other things for folks. It really is, in my mind, what we're called to do as Christians, to love those who are most vulnerable. And folks have sometimes asked me, why do you do that with those people or those people? And my answer is, I don't know how to walk with Jesus if I'm not walking with the folks who Jesus would walk with. If I don't sit and eat with the people that Jesus would eat with. If I'm not offering love and grace. And it's not that I have all the cards, right? It's not that I have all the power. It's that I have so much to learn from folks who are dealing with their own struggle and their own threats, for me to be able to hear and have compassion with those folks.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Kelly. And if
thank
you guys are all looking for a place to worship, check us out.